Alrighty, guys, Thursday afternoon, and we're back with another PDOCS livestream series episode. And as I mentioned this week, we are going to be covering messaging and outreach. More specifically, effective messaging and outreach, talking about approaches, strategies, psychology, and what goes into all that. So, just kicking off here, I'm going to give it a couple minutes. Well, I'll dive into things regardless, but I will check back at the phone every, so often to see if we have any comments, questions. Let me know your thoughts on what I'm talking about, if it's making sense, some examples or questions. I have about 30 minutes. Usually I block out about 45 minutes for these. I have about 30 minutes today, just due to other calls being booked on the schedule and some other things rescheduling. So let's start off with some of the basics. And what I'm going to show you first is we'll start with the system and the approach to, booking this stuff out. So give me 1 minute and let me just pull up the right screen. And as you guys, this will look familiar. And then once I tie this in, and I'm not going to spend much time on this, but you guys are all going to, well, I can't say all, but a majority of you guys, this micro commitment process might look familiar. And if you're any of my private students, you've been through this training, we might have built out this process in your business. I'm currently building it out in certain businesses and clients of mine. But the micro commitment process is really, our sales process that we set up in all of our companies and offers, right? So, sorry. Let me just leave it on this for a minute. So, again, really briefly, in most sales processes or usual sales processes, we see about 3 steps, right? There's ad or content, something to get engagement, which is obviously going to be part of the messaging. Then we send them to a triage conversation, a pre-qualifying conversation, a pre-qualifying form fill, what have you, then to an actual sales call, right? So we utilize what's called a micro commitment 6-step sales process. So in the old process, guys, the one I just showed, that would be steps 1, 3, and 6. And the new steps that we implement into ours, or the things not all businesses or all companies are implementing into their sales process, are steps 2, 4, and 5. So this all kind of ties in, and I'll go over it really quickly. It's going to tie in a lot to this process, and that's why I wanted to start with this. I actually didn't even plan on bringing this up, but I think it's going to make a lot more sense as I go through the rest of the process to anyone who is already familiar with this and just getting a rehash, or anybody that's new and didn't know this process. It's going to make a lot more sense. And what I mean by the other steps, the new frame is really, when we get engagement, usually a lot of times it's whatever, it's a hook, it's an angle, it's kind of an entry-level base question or phrase or line or lead type that we know is going to hit a mass majority of our audience. And a lot of times we're talking about symptom or surface level problems, and that's how you get a mass audience. And then when we assign a new frame, we dial into the root or the real problem, and we're like, hey, sounds like you're having trouble booking calls. Did you ever think the real problem is not that you're not getting in enough conversations, but you're actually just not converting the ones you have now? We have a process. So whatever it is, right? I just isolate that down and pick a very specific problem of that's probably leading to the symptom level problem. Now, once we've assigned the new frame, we send them here a small little resource, which I'll probably cover as I go forward. And we send them over to a triage call. After the triage call, which has 2 primary objectives, I cover this often, guys. Number 1 is to pre-qualify and make sure they're a good fit for your offer and they can get results and you're the best suited to help them. Number 2, a soft yes in terms of a financial commitment that they are willing to invest if they find a clear path to solve this problem, to reach this desired result, to obtain this transformation, whatever it is in your offer. Then after we finish up the triage call, we send them over to the closing call. And in between, we implement 2 more phases where we're sending homework, another resource, and the alignment phase, which, again, I'll talk about maybe briefly, but this whole presentation today isn't really aligned on just this, I shouldn't say aligned, isn't really focused on just this micro commitment process. This just kind of lays into the rest of it. So why I wanted to start with this is I'm just going to show you a couple conversations from a couple people I booked this week, the whole process, the messaging, the resources, the end outcome. So I didn't have this to the right thing, and I'm sure I'm getting more messages as I'm sitting here because that's the beauty of being busy in the digital business. I'm looking for 2 recent conversations here. Let me just try to find them really quickly. See, I had a group chat and I thought it'd be easiest if I just search the names, but for some reason Messenger is just being slow and retarded right now. Come on. Oh, back to full chats. All right, I'll just scroll and find it. That'll be fine. It's not like it was long, but I do get in a lot of conversations. So even not long could be. So Jesse and Tim, there we go. So I'm going to show you the conversation, the flow, how it went, what happened, the messaging, and the outreach approach. Now this one, I must admit, in terms of outreach approach, is a little different. But all of us, we're going to start to have this type of result too. The more established we get, the more we talk about what we do, the more we work with clients, the more we share results. So this one came as an introduction. And so that's kind of a warm lead or a referral base, right? That's not necessarily contingent with outreach. What I want to more show you is the messaging flow and what I went through to book the call. And I don't know why everything is not loading all of a sudden. Just since I got on here and started screen share, like everything is moving super slow. I should have ran a test on my speed before I went live. I usually do. So let's just bear with me and hope this loads here momentarily. And while I'm waiting, I don't really want to wait because there's something else I want to cover. I just don't want to skip ahead. But I don't understand why this just isn't. Let me just try to refresh the page. Give it one more minute. I just want to dive in and show you the flow of a couple of conversations and a couple of different prospects I booked in different offers, different price points, different outcomes, and just show you the whole flow and everything that goes on. And that's what I would love to share here. So let's see if this is going to work now. Perfect. Thank you. And we're almost there, guys. Bear with me. Sorry for the slow action here today. My computer just does not want to cooperate. And I know this isn't much longer because we started the conversation on Monday, and I remember this message came at you, as you can see where I'm hovering my mouse, 2:28 a.m. overnight. So I woke up to seeing this, and I'm going to get to that in the flow, right? I don't want to jump ahead. So here's the start of the conversation. I get an introduction. Hey, Tim, meet Ray. Ray and I have been at this a handful of years, and he's the best guy on the team regarding our sales. Then my partner, Jesse, goes on to say, hey, can you provide Tim some materials to look at for sales? He's currently looking for remote sales, has experience in insurance and car sales, good guy, hungry, eager to make some money. And then Tim chimes in before I get a chance to. Damn right, let's go, let's do this. Thanks, Jesse. Right? So again, the outreach and the introduction may be different. It still doesn't change really what happens from here on. Whether I was doing cold outreach and just broke the ice, which I'll show you and we'll get to that approach, or it was a warm lead and a referral and introduction, I still go to what I did next. Now, you guys can't all see this because I use voice notes and you guys hear me talk about this, but all I'm really doing here is verifying the information and making it very clear on this is where you're at, this is where you want to get to. Let's just make sure I'm clear. So this message was like, hey Tim, nice to make your acquaintance. Jesse, thanks for the intro. So Tim, Jesse said to send you over some resources, and he said you had some experience in insurance and car sales, and you're looking to get into the remote space. Can you just clarify exactly what you're looking for in your ideal outcome? Right? And I'm always doing that for a very specific reason. Then he comes back saying, yep, I'm currently working for a dealership. This is what I'm doing. This is my goal. And really, he's looking to get in remote sales, right? So because, and I always include resources in this process before the calls, and we'll dive into that a little more, but this is a very, very lengthy resource, right? I don't recommend, and I'm guaranteed that a lot of you other business owners that are even sending resources are not sending an hour-and-a-half long masterclass, right? But because of this voice note here and how I positioned it, and it truly is the best resource for him now, he had no problem going through it, and you see he came back to me overnight, and this was a very long resource. I wasn't expecting a response probably till 24 hours at best. This was much sooner than that. But this message basically just said, hey Tim, Jesse and I put on a once-a-year free sales lab, all-encompassing masterclass that dives into everything from remote sales, the different positions, compensation structure, how your skill set from the corporate world would transition, the skill set you're needed, our sales processes, the frameworks and scripts and things we use. So everything you want to know about remote sales, Tim, is going to be in this video. Yes, it's a bit long. Take your time and dive through it, but I really think this will give you a clear understanding one way or the other, like, yes, Ray, this is right for me. This is what I'm looking for. Or, hey man, thanks for the masterclass, great information, but this isn't quite what I thought it was. It's not for me, right? So either way, I want you to have that information. Send him the resource. Then again, I wake up the next morning because I replied at 7 a.m., but at 2 in the morning, he's like, hey man, sorry for the late reply. Got caught up at work and just finished the video. Absolutely awesome what you were sharing and the way you explained everything. It's a little different from the sales approach at the dealership. My dream from the start was to getting into sales was to work remotely, and I believe this is the place to be. So then right then, right, I'm not going to take any more time. I had a very brief conversation, positioned the correct resource. He went through it, came back saying, yeah, this is what I'm looking for, right? Great, man. Glad you enjoyed it and it was informative for you. Hey, you have like 15 minutes available sometime this week so we can hop on a quick call. I can give you some next steps, suggestions, and recommendations moving forward. Yeah, that sounds good. I'm off work at 6 today, right? As of now, I have Wednesday. So I always try to give people 2 times within the next 12 to 24 hours, whatever that is. Sometimes it's like this afternoon, tomorrow morning. This one was the next afternoon, 2 separate times. 3 p.m. works. Cool. What's the best email? So I can send you invite, email provided, invite sent, and you guys can see if you see the timestamps. These all came back like almost instantly. This wasn't like I had to follow up 2 days later. If anything, there was a half hour, an hour gap between messages where one of us was on a call, whatever, right? You live, but these are very prompt replies. Sent, invite, speak soon. Look forward to it. Then, as I always talk about in my outreach approach, touch point messaging. Now, because this was booked less than a day out, I just did the 5-minute touch point. Hey, brother, see you in about 5 minutes. Now, he had given me the thumbs up emoji right here and confirmed before we even got on the call. I got on the call. 30-minute call, closed him into a package right afterwards because I didn't have the payment links prepared. That's on me. Guilty as charged. But I sent him the 2 different options that we talked about, whatever fit in his budget better. Let me know if I can help with anything further. Then he sends me a screenshot, paid. How do I get access? And he's now in. So again, that's the whole flow. Like everything that happened is right here. There was no other conversations outside of one phone call, no other messages that aren't here in this thread. Any messages I have with him individually weren't until after he enrolled and paid, and I didn't need to do it in a group thread anymore. I like to communicate directly with my new student or client, so I went and started a direct thread. But yeah, that was exactly it, and he came, and he's one of our newest, he's the newest because it just happened last night, Remote Sales Academy student going through our high-ticket training, and we're going to help him get placed into an offer where he's going to hit and crush his on-track earnings, and that's what we do there. So that's one example. Let me find another example, and then I'll go into more of the lesson that kind of ties this all together, but I think it's more helpful to see the messaging first and then understand the strategy and what went into it and why I said what and what have you. New conversation. Maybe it's going to take forever to load again. No, doesn't look bad at all. And this one was pretty recent too, but this person reached out to me. Now, this person was always already in my network in the past. If I remember properly, had been either in my PDOCS program or groups and trainings in the past, or I think maybe one of her partners. I don't even remember how we first met because it was back in 22. But this is where the conversation just started again. This past Friday, she basically chimed in and says, "Hey, Raymond, I saw your ads and posts and forgot we're connected already. Can I get some more info about this $500 a month program for Audience Lab?" Right? And she shows me the screenshot where she messaged my business partner or his direct page, right? And maybe he didn't reply yet. Yeah, of course. Here's the link regarding that plan and info, right? So she asked for the link regarding this specific price point plan. Here's the link. You get all the details, and you can check out if you want. Very, very direct. Then she says, "Thanks a bunch. Just so I can plan ahead, how much is full access?" So now I need to specify and clarify, because within this offer and multiple offers, we have multiple plans, tiers, price points, packages with different features or, different levels of support or what have you, right? So now she's like, now I clarify in the voice note, by full access, do you mean like our data as a service white label reseller program? Because yes, that is different from our 497 incubator program. And then this specifies for me, right? Oh, sorry, I'm not actually sure if of all the programs. It'd be great to find out next steps. Or what would that DAS one be? Or the ability to pull more than 2 B2B lists. So now she's asking, these are what I call buying questions, right? These are when people asking the specifics about the deliverables. How much I get, what different programs are, what does that stand for, right? All those things are little buying questions, right? I just want to plan ahead to budget. I really need to think about what I need to do to hit the next level. And then a little more. I'm trying to get clients for my first AI automation agency. And then we'll keep watching training to learn more about DAS. So I give her a little feedback. Yeah, I mean, basically, Amber, the best thing I can recommend for you is to hop on a call with me real quick. 15 minutes, let's brainstorm a little more. I mean, this gave me a little context as to what you're looking for, but I can screen share and show you the specific plans, how many lists you get in each. I can show you all the price points. That way you can plan ahead and budget accordingly. Boom. Then she comes back saying, yes, that'd be great, right? And I remember this message. I'm in the middle of moving, and this was on a Friday, so we basically knew this was going to go into next week. Actually, she tried to make time later on Friday, and you'll see when I scroll down, I just couldn't get it into my schedule. And then she basically said in here, well, odds are either way, Ray, I want to see them all, but I'm probably going to start with your 497 plan and upgrade into the other one later. I was like, awesome. The 497 plan is a great starter package for sure. I can walk you through the other options whenever it's good for you. Moving's never fun, right? And then she came back saying, well, actually, I am moving into pain, but I really want to get moving on this. She's like, I can make some time. And I said, I'll let you know. I may have a 15-minute gap after my next call. It didn't work out. I didn't. I totally forgot about the conversation on my end, so there's another fault. That's something I could have done better. But I kind of left the ball in her court either way. But she comes back to me Tuesday morning, 9 a.m., right? Morning, Raymond, I haven't forgotten about this. Literally the day after we moved, we had a tornado and now flood warning. If you have time today, I'd love to connect. Yeah, I have some free time. I have 12 p.m. Eastern. Okay, cool. What's your best email? Send, confirm, get on the call. And then after the call, I sent her over the resource and the information she needs to go make the decision and the information she was looking for. Now that happened, the way my follow-up works is before end of week tomorrow, I always follow up with anybody I've sent resources or links. I just kind of batch it out and do my follow-up on certain days. Now, if I was just a rep in an account and that was fully my duty, I would probably be doing my follow-up much more daily and diligently. Not to say I'm not doing it diligently, but I'm not an active rep in an account. I manage sales teams and I'm co-owners and I run trainings, but I don't fully, handle calls and manage a pipeline the way I did in the past. So I of course treat it a little different. But those are some simple examples, very basic conversations. So if you see what I'm doing here when it comes down to the basis, guys, it's being relational. It's just trying to offer solutions and find out a little more. It's assessing where they're at, right? So we can offer the right solutions. I think so many people, and what I talk about with, your outreach approach is stale at best, what I said in my post, is what I'm seeing is people trying to offer solutions before they've diagnosed or assessed that person's situation, their objective, all the things that are going to be relevant, right? People will just DM you, hey, Amber, what if I could get you 25 verified book calls into your calendar this month or you don't pay? Like, I booked 1,400 appointments in the past year. What is your 20, people that message me that, they probably do no research. Maybe their message does hit a mass-wide part of the market, but I hate when somebody tries to come in and offer a solution without finding out if I need that. More specifically, when I definitely don't need that. Like, somebody does that to me, I'm like, okay, you can get me 25 calls per month. Is that going to exceed the 1,400 we booked last year? I'm not really looking for book calls, so what are you talking about? And then they're like, oh, forget it, this isn't for you, right? Well, they could have figured out it wasn't for me if they asked a couple questions, or maybe they could have asked a couple questions, then actually offered me something of value or that solves a problem. So that's number one. Thinking, there's no problem with thinking or knowing your market, or even really crafting kind of one outline message, right, to hit a bulk of your market. But I would usually do that, as I mentioned earlier, through ads, and then we assign a new frame, which is why I take the custom approach. Because in Messenger, in both of these instances, going back to that process I showed you guys, I didn't really recommend solutions until I assigned and I assessed and then assigned a new frame. Other than Amber, when she asked me for the link, yeah, if somebody asks me for a specific link, I'm going to give it to them. Adora, stop it. I have to let you out. Sorry for the dog interruption. Hold on. Let me just make this easier. Hold on one second. Sorry for the delay, guys. Rather everyone be able to hear me than hear the dog over me. But anytime somebody pulls in the driveway, that's her duty right there. But yeah, as I was saying, again, my messenger flow, and in really, guys, in the simplest terms, what we're trying to figure out is kind of where you at, where are you trying to get to, and what's that biggest roadblock. However we say that or position it or word it, whether we do it in one message, whether we go back and forth, doesn't really matter. You got to figure out what's effective with your audience. I don't really like to do little one word questions or trying to pre-qualify only one category. I always do it in two parts, right? But initially it's kind of, what do where would you like to be? Where are you at now? And what's been that biggest roadblock? And then I can dive into that a little more. Oh, so it's client acquisition is your biggest roadblock? Well, what are you currently trying? Okay, and what do you like about that? And what don't you like, or what's not working so well? So again, that allows me to take their symptom level problem of client acquisition and chunk it down to the root or the real problem. Not enough conversations, not enough quality. We're not closing at a high enough percentage. We're going to figure out where the gap is once I can chunk that down. And then I'm going to offer the resource very specific. Hey, Amber, based on what you just told me, it looks like you're doing a lot of things right, but you're just not closing deals at the end of the day. So what I recommend is this Sales Lab Masterclass, so you can understand everything that goes into building out the proper sales process and the call structure, so I can almost guarantee you can double your close percentage, right? Check this out. Let me know your thoughts, and happy to walk you through how we could set this up in your business. So again, now that I've chunked it down, I can pick out the resource I have that's going to best help them, give them some next action steps, and then tell them to come back to me so we can get on one-on-one, and I can show them how that can implement into their business. Now, when it's the right fit, as I did with that conversation I just showed you guys a few minutes ago with Tim, my whole conversation with him basically came down to very similar to this messaging flow. It was like, all right, Tim, so you're currently at the dealership, you're looking to get into remote sales. What's really, why are you really looking to make the move? And what do you need to do to replace your current earnings? Or what is your desired on-track earnings? What would you like to be making? So that was a very open-ended question. I'm not going to just get a little answer of, oh, I'm looking to transition so I can work from home. Or, I made it a two-part. Why are you looking to transition, and what is the monetary thing we need to do to, number one, replace your current income, and then I'm sure you want to exceed that, so what's your goal? What do we want to be hitting? So once now I have all that down, when I get down to it, I'm like, okay, Tim, so you're telling me right now the priority for you is to get out of the dealership and to be working remote, to be hitting 6, 8 to 10K a month minimum to start. Somewhere between 6 and 10 is ideal, but we need about 6K to replace the revenue. And you want to know that you can go into an opportunity where you have calls coming in and clients to speak to, because you told me right now at the dealership nobody's walking in the door, which has been making it very difficult for you to close deals. So that's kind of what you're looking for. Let me just clarify. Yes, it is. All right, Tim, based on all that, the best way I can help you and the way I work with my clients is I do an 8-week coaching program where we get on and do one-on-one role plays. We do call audits. You get all of my best high-ticket course and training, so you can be doing work from home and understanding and studying. You get access to all the documents, frameworks, scripts, everything we use in our processes, and you get one-on-one time so I can work with you and pre-vet you and make sure you're solid to go into an offer and you'll actually succeed. And then I help you get placed into the ideal offer of your choosing. To make that happen, we have these different tiers and these different packages, and then I run them through. And what I always do when I have multiple guys is, based on what they're looking for, I recommend the package that's going to help them do that the easiest. So I recommended one tier higher package, and he ended up buying it in this particular case, but we did what fit within his budget. And actually, I didn't even show the end of that conversation, but what he had said to me is, I'm starting with this package, but odds are I want to upgrade and pay the difference and get into the other tier after I've gone through the initial do-it-yourself stuff, which is a great way to go. That was one of the suggestions I gave him. We want to give them options and what's in their best interest. Now, again, I always say, hey, man, for best results, you're going to want this package, but we can also help you get there with here. It might just be a little longer or a little more, doing it yourself rather than me doing it with you. So all of those things are what kind of come into account when I'm doing this. And to kind of take that back to everything that was entailed in that process, I showed you a bit of our micro commitment process. I showed you some conversations, talked about the strategy and the frameworks that went into that. And as this board is loading, which is going to bring up the next framework, I'm just going to check the phone and see if you guys have any comments or questions or anything to add. This screen, Miro, as you guys may know, if you have any big complex Miro boards, there's just so much information on here. This always takes the longest to load just because it's housing so much, data. Let's see a couple comments here. Too many tabs open. Yeah, that certainly could be it, Jordan. Why did you go straight to the 30-minute sales as opposed to a 15-minute triage? Yeah, that's a great question. And I kind of booked that, and if you saw, that's a great question. So if you saw when I actually was first talking to him, right, I'm like, hey, man, do you have 15 minutes available? And what I did was, that's kind of what I always say, do you have 10 or 15 minutes? And 90% of the time, I do book them into a 15-minute call. I went and manually did that, so I didn't just send him a booking link, and I blocked out a half hour knowing that he had just been through my entire hour-and-a-half long masterclass. Normally, Jordan, before a 15-minute triage, they might have consumed a 3 or a 5 or a 7-minute video, and then it's probably going to still take him a little more time, but he already knew we were solid. He had already told me this is what he wanted, and I had a lot more information, and he'd just been through more content and more curriculum and really understood our expertise. So I think we were in that authority frame. We knew he was ready to proceed. So I went ahead and manually booked it in for a half hour, thinking to myself, I might triage it. I might be able to just close him in a half hour. Let me see how it goes. So again, you're right. When you have a process, you want to do it by the system, and that's what I would do. When I'm fielding calls myself, I kind of go by feel and can tweak things a little bit just because I've been in this space a long time. These people are reaching out to me, and I just kind of knew going in, like, there's a good chance I'm just going to make a pitch right here. Like, why? It's very rare, but my rebuttal to your question is, why would I set a second call if I didn't need to, right? So in most processes, we're going to need that second call and the homework and the alignment and everything in that phase, but we just had a lot of pre-built trust and likability here in this scenario. So that's the reason why, but that is a great question. Let me just check one more. I forgot I clicked off of that, and But you're right, definitely. It's not even too many tabs. It's too many tabs on so many browsers, which, again, I can clean up. Normally, before I do these live streams, I go run a performance check on the computer. I just been so stacked today with stuff, I didn't even have time. I didn't even do all my prep for this live stream, as you guys could tell. I've been bringing it up late. Now, I had the outline and the curriculum right here in front of me, but I didn't have all my screens brought up and everything that I wanted. I just been kind of doing it on the fly because it's been that busy of a day. But back into the process and everything that goes into it, and messaging and outreach, right? Again, my outreach basic strategy, relational. Talk like you would talk to your friend sitting on the couch across from you having a beer watching the game. Don't talk. I mean, certain industries, B2B, and maybe different platforms, maybe LinkedIn, yes, there's a certain amount of professionalism, but that doesn't mean you're not still a person. I've worked in plenty of professional industries where they swear just as much. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people watching, whether live or on the replay, can relate. So, again, just be yourself. That's number one. When you try to put on too much of a professional persona, it comes across as not genuine, as inauthentic, as boring, right? If I see someone only talking about business, I'm like, who is this person as a person? Why do I want to pay him to work with them? As I've mentioned on trainings and examples of mine in the past, guys, a lot of times people buy from me not just because of my expertise, because they also align with or jive with my lifestyle content, with going out with my daughter, coaching softball, maybe it's political stuff, maybe it's sports stuff, whatever. But they're like, oh, I see what Ray's about, and he has substance, and he has stances on things, and I also see the clients he worked with, the amount of revenue they generate, the systems that he does, the live streams that he provides, right? So I like people to be relational and also be able to, yes, showcase your skill set, solve problems, deliver results. That's what this is all about. So that's number one. On cold outreach specifically, as anybody has seen in my cold outreach DM voice note structure training, or whatever I labeled it, it's all about keeping it all about them. I talk about myself so little, if at all, other than a quick, hey, I'm Ray, I reached out because of X, Y, and Z, then back to all about them. So when you're first doing outreach, you should keep it all about the prospect or the other individual. Generally speaking, as a byproduct, and human nature is, they're going to reply to you and say, hey, Ray, you asked a lot about me, and I feel like I've been talking about myself forever. What is it you do? Tell me a little about your business, right? So that's another thing I look at. That's another thing I shouldn't say look at. I think about when I'm doing outreach, be relational, keep it about them. And you guys saw those conversations. Where are you at? Where are you trying to get to? And what's been the big obstacle? Oh, cool. I understand. And then I tie it down a little more. So you feel like if you were able to generate more conversations, close more deals, whatever it is, you could actually achieve the revenue or the amount of clients you want to work with? Yeah, I do. Cool. I've actually seen this in a few different people in the past and helped them overcome this. You mind if I weigh in and give you a little more advice? No, I don't, right? And then we ask permission and we go in and we assign the frame. So what this is showing you on this board, this is our eco framework. And currently this motherboard, for anyone watching, Jordan, I know you're on here, so you have access to this because you're a PDOCS CAM member. But anybody that's not in the program doesn't have access to this motherboard because it's literally just for paying students. But where we start at is engagement, right? Whether that's a post, whether that's an ad, whether it's an email. What are we doing at first to elicit someone to raise their hand and engage, right? And then we're going to assess where they're at. That's where we do our knowledge gap analysis. If you guys have heard me talk about so much in PDOCS, one of the biggest things we do. And this is just an overall example of a huge knowledge gap board. So a knowledge gap analysis is where we're assessing, and then we drop them into a specific bucket. Basically, when we do a knowledge gap analysis with a prospect, when we know our knowledge gaps and then we start talking to them, we're going to ask them questions till eventually they fall into one of these yellow buckets, right? Once they fall into one of these yellow buckets, now I can go down and assign the new frame. And then from there I can go to the call to action and then the obligation or accountability. So again, let's just go based on the model I just said, right? Hey, you're booking enough calls, but you're just not converting or closing deals. So first I say, mind if I weigh in on this? No, Ray, I'd love to hear your insight. So I deal with this. Let me just see what I have in here. Good, this is my template one. It is. Yeah, I should have known. I'm on the motherboard. But hey, man, so I deal with this quite often. It sounds like the reason you're having problems closing deals isn't necessarily because of your sales skills as much as you're not talking to the right people or pre-qualifying them. So do you think if you had a better qualification process and the people coming into your call knew that there was going to be an offer presented and already told you that they would invest if they could see a clear path to their results? If we had all that information before the call, do you think you could close more deals? Because what we do when we work with our clients is we give them training on how to implement what's called a micro-commitment sales process, which teaches them to pre-qualify, build more authority, and educate the prospect. So they actually show up to the sales call in the buying pocket. You see, where most people go wrong is they think, oh, I'm just speaking to the wrong people, or oh, my sales skills suck, and this is just what it is. When some of those things might be true, but it doesn't have to stay what it is. You can always change those things by embedding better processes, better frameworks, and better systems to actually run your calls. Does that all make sense, right? And then we confirm the frame. It makes sense. They're usually going to give you one of 3 frames of acceptance, a strong frame. Yeah, that totally makes sense, Ray. And then I can go to the next step. If it's a weak frame, or I should say a medium frame of acceptance, medium and then weak, it would be something like, that kind of makes sense, Ray, but I'm still not sure exactly how that would work in my business, my offer. And then a weak frame is, that makes no sense. I don't think that would work at all, right? That means we either assess the wrong knowledge gap, or our messaging is really, really bad. But once we kind of know who people are, and what problem they are, and how sophisticated or established they are, and where they're at in their journey, we know which knowledge gap we can inject, which is just simply exactly that: a message, an angle, a hook, just a few words that we use to inject that is going to help this person kind of come from unaware to problem aware, as we say, right? Like, oh shoot, what Ray said makes sense. Nobody's really told me that before. Yeah, how do I find out more, right? And then we get into the booking and the resources. So just because we're coming up against it here on time, guys, and I had a back-to-back, I tried to fit as much as I could here into 30 minutes, but I didn't have the full 45 today. So I'm going to go in the group one more time, check for last questions and thoughts, and if you guys didn't get another chance, like somebody had more questions since then, feel free to drop them in, and I can go address them after. And as always, there will be a replay and a recording of this as well. But yep, Jordan, I saw you replied to yep, exactly. That's exactly it, and that's exactly why. And again, I just kind of had a feel like, oh, most likely we're not going to need 2 calls. I'm going to know right away. So, great question. Thank you for being active. I think you were the only one in the chat. And again, this week I didn't do a whole lot of promotion for this. But I normally get people that can comment more on the replay, or on the replay, like after the fact, or on the YouTube upload when I upload the recording there. But Jordan, hopefully this was helpful. Let me know if there's anything else I can answer for you, and you guys have a great rest of your day.